Hey, everybody. Welcome to another live broadcast from the OR here in sunny Stuart, Florida. We're switching over to doing these once a month because we're going to be putting our focus in some other areas. But once a month, we're going to be bringing you these live classes. We're going to stick at the same time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, which is 1 p.m. Pacific time. And today's topic is how to ceramic coat matte paint finishes. And this would also hold true for what's called satin paint or frost paint. Anyway, what we have here is a 2022 Genesis GV70. So this is kind of their mid-range SUV, and it has this beautiful dark forest green matte finish on it. Now, this car is 2 years old. It was previously, when it was purchased brand new, given the Dr. Beasley's matte coat treatment. And then the owner has carefully and meticulously taken care of it over these these last 2 years. And he's actually getting ready to purchase this off the lease. So he wants to keep it. So he, of course, asked if we could put the coating back on for him. Of course, we said, yes, we'll do that, but also use it for a video. So that's where we got this card, and that's what we're doing today. Now, there's a lot of confusion about matte surfaces. As someone that has been paid professionally to answer detailing questions. So in 2002, I was hired to run the McGuire's Forum. It's now 2025. What is that? 23 years. I've been paid 23 years to answer questions. So here's a question I get all the time. Hey, Mike, I've just bought a car with a matte finish. Sprinkler went off. It's got water spots everywhere. How can I fix it? Well, here at Dr. Beasley's, we got a couple tricks up our sleeve to help you with that. But the important thing to remember is you cannot treat this like glossy paint. So not only can you not polish it with any type of polisher, pad, or abrasive product like a compounded polish or an AIO, you can't even come out here and rub hard on it. Because what you're going to do is you're going to start to smooth over this textured surface and create a visible, it'll start to get a sheen. If you do too much, it'll actually get glossy. So you want to be very careful with matte finishes on how you treat them. And one of the things I share all the time in these live videos in our classes is the importance of keeping anything that's going to touch this car, whether it's your wiping towel, your drying towel, or your wash mitt. You've got to keep them clean and uncontaminated, because once you put a scratch into this finish, it's pretty much game over. To this point, I've never seen a paint correction system on the market for matte finishes. So you really need to take care of it. Now, the good news about a matte finish is you'll never have to polish out the car. So there's, something like this would take me maybe 5 or 6 hours if this was a glossy paint to polish this out. That's a lot of time. With matte finish, you get to avoid all that. Just wash it carefully, keep it protected. So pretty simple. And it does have a very unique, and a lot of people would say a very cool look to it. Before we went live, I commented to our cameraman, Craig, that when I returned from the Chicago 5-day class, parked right next to me was a matte black Lexus RX 350, and it looked like something Darth Vader would drive. It was so cool looking. Kind of made me want to get one, in fact. Anyway, so what we're going to do with this, we're going to show you how to use the Dr. Beasley's matte coating. I do want to point out that the only thing that's clean on this car is the hood. I used the matte final finish, which is a spray detailer. I think I got it up here somewhere. This is a spray detailer for removing fingerprints, smudges, light dust off a matte finish. You can also do like I did and basically kind of use it as a waterless wash. But the reason I didn't wash this car is because this Saturday, Yancey and I will be here. We're shooting a full-length video series on how to wash, prep, and then coat matte finishes, and that's for another platform. So this is our live platform. This will be for YouTube. But if you were to look at this, you'd still see it's dirty. But the reason why is because I want to leave it dirty so Yancey can capture the fact that it's dirty in the video, because all too often, if you bring in a car that's very shiny, like the 52 Hudson over there was washed over the weekend, and you wash it on video, everybody makes fun of you. Anyway, so let's just dive right into it. So one of the most important things you got to remember is that matte has a texture to it, and it diffuses light. That's why when you look at it, you don't see the bright reflections you would see off a shiny paint. So everything that you use as far as product, they need to be specifically and chemically formulated for matte paints. You cannot go to AutoZone and buy conventional car care products, even the car washes, because a lot of the car washes contain a built-in wax. I've seen this all my life. It's got a built-in wax. Wash your car and wax it at the same time. That wax will fill in the texture. It'll start to create gloss. It actually will clog up the paint. So you want to be very careful about the products you choose to take care of your matte finish. Now, I've already wiped this clean, and so I can go right to the coating. But in case you've got a matte finish that is dirtier, here's a couple of products that Dr. Beasley's makes that can help you with that. So this first one is called the Matte Paint Cleanser. Now, this is basically for organic contaminants. So the normal kinds of dirt buildup that you would find on here, bird droppings, tree sap, things like that. And you want to use this wet. So basically, you'd want to wash the car starting out with a product specific. So this is the Dr. Beasley's matte body wash. You want to get the car clean. And then while it's still wet, here's how you would use this product. I'm not going to do it because this is not as dry, but I would take and I would dampen a microfiber towel, a clean towel, then spray this onto the towel, and then just slowly massage, any spot cleaning you need to do if you notice something on the car, and let time work in your favor. So liquids dissolve things. So a bird dropping etching, instead of putting it on here and then come up here and scrubbing, place it there, allow it to dwell for a few seconds, and let the liquids, let the paint cleanser get in there, let the water get in there and start to loosen, emulsify that dried on bird dropping before you wipe it off. So this is a case where just having a little bit of patience is your friend. Anyway, so that's the matte paint cleanser. We also have the matte decon. Now, this is for inorganic. So, for example, every time you drive your car and it's raining, the same cars that leak oil and transmission fluid in the parking spots at stores, you see the little darker area in all the parking spots. If you look down a road on a dry day, a straight road, you'll notice the center of the road is darker, and that's because the same cars that leak oil in a parking lot leak it while they're driving the car down the road. Then that mixes with the rainwater, and that throws this up onto your car, and over time it builds up. It starts to bond to the paint, and that's called, over here in America, we call it road film. In the UK, they call it traffic film, but it's this oily dirt film that gets on the paint. So that's what this product would be good for, is removing, more serious contamination, industrial fallout, pollution that is been allowed to stay on the car long enough that it isn't just washing off. And this is also a product that you must use wet, okay? So you want to keep the car wet, and the same kind of technique. Take a wet towel, dampen it with this product, and then wipe one panel at a time. So we have some products that help you bring back contaminated, neglected matte finishes. And these would take the place of things like clay in a car. So if you were to have clay on here, you can't, or overspray paint on here, or tree sap mist, or some kind of fallout that's bonded. And if you did the baggy test, you could feel it was bonded on there, little bumps. You can't bring a clay bar or a clay towel or a clay disc or clay mitt and rub on there. You're going to make it glossy. So you need to chemically remove it, and that's where the matte decon comes into play. So we do have some products to help you, but the best thing to do is when you buy a matte car, is the first thing is get it coated. So, okay, so back to this car. It's already been cleaned, wiped down. And one of the key things that you want to do as you're using this product, the Dr. Beasley's matte coating, is you want to have some distilled water. Okay, so here's a gallon of distilled water, and I've already poured this off into a spray bottle. And this is a wet application coating. And so that first thing I'm going to spray that down there. But I want to give you a little technique tip that Mike Phillips came up with years ago. It's kind of hokey, but this is a foam applicator pad. Okay, so this product actually applies better with a soft, clean, open cell foam pad like this versus the conventional applicator pads that we're all familiar with for applying other normal glossy paint coatings. So, but one of the things I'm going to do is, because once I apply the coating, I can't really tell where I applied it, So what I do is I take one side of this and I take a Sharpie marker, and I'm just going to take and draw a line like that on the back. And that tells me that's where I'm going to put my 4 fingers. And that tells me I'm going to put the coating on this side of the applicator pad. And then, of course, if I see that get dirty and I flip to the other side, as long as it's clean, it's always a good idea to have extra applicator pads. Then I know to apply it on the opposite side of the little smile that I put on there. Anyway, that's a little technique I use. Believe it or not, I sent a bunch of these to a guy named Matt Still. He's the host of Garage Squad and Truck U, and he bought a brand new truck and wanted to know how to coat it. And I sent him this whole article showing the little line on there so he would know how to apply that coating. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So like applying any coating, one of the things I teach in my classes is anytime you got to reach out, you want to start in the middle, work your way out. Don't start here and work your way in. It's just a good best practice. Every time you go out to the garage to work on a car, you don't want to how should I do it this time? You want to have a method to your madness. Okay, so here's where I put my mark. Here is the Dr. Beasley's matte paint coating. And I'm just going to take and start up because this applicator is absolutely dry. I'm going to put about 8 or 9 drops on there. You can see I've sprayed down the distilled water. So now I'm just going to reach out here. My shirt is clean because I am leaning on this car. And you can do a back and forth crosshatch pattern, or you can just make a circular motion like this. It's not going to affect the way the coating reacts. It's not going to affect how it looks or how it lays down the protection. It's just one thing about making an overlapping circular motion. It's easy to spread a product out versus making straight line motions. So it's actually easier to apply the coating. And the first thing you're going to notice, can you zoom in on this, Craig? Is you'll see the water start to bead up. I don't know if you can see that. And there's kind of an opaqueness to it. And so that's the coating mixing with the water. And then you immediately want to wipe this off. There is no flash time. Come down with your clean microfiber towel. That's just water over there. Fold to a clean, dry side for the final wipe, or switch to another towel, and then just wipe that dry. And then the thing you're going to notice is it has not altered the appearance at all. And that's the goal of a matte product, is you want to be able to apply it without altering the appearance. You want to keep that factory-looking, matte, diffused appearance to it. Then after that, you just keep moving around the car. So now I'm going to come out here to this outer portion. And same thing applies as far as the general work area. You want something that's manageable. 2 foot by 2 foot's a good general rule. And next time I do this, Craig, I'll have you zoom in and you can see the water beading. As I continue to rub, I'm dissipating the water itself, so you can no longer see it. Okay, then same thing, come down with the clean microfiber towel. Here you're leveling that coating and then also removing any excess. That's about as simple as it gets. It's actually a really super easy product to use. If you're not a professional, you're just an enthusiast, you own your car, you like to do your own maintenance work, it's actually super simple. There doesn't take any, what you just saw there is it's actually easier than putting a car wax on. A lot of times you put a car wax on a car, you got all kinds of problems going on you got to be careful of. Okay, just like that. Then just keep moving around the car. Okay, so I'm going to put some water up here, Craig. I'm going to take my coating. There's my little, that's why I know to put my fingers right there. I'm going to apply, I'll just put like 4 drops on there. Now, as soon as I start to apply this, I think you can capture that hydrophobic water beading action. Can you capture that? You see it, and because of the angle here, it's already starting to run off. And that's one of the benefits of this coating, is it provides a little bit of what we call a self-cleaning effect. So after you get the car coated, every time it rains, the water's going to want to run off instead of pile up. And with it, take off all the contaminants, loose dirt, dust, pollen, things like that. So no waiting time, just come down and wipe, level the coating, wipe off any excess. Okay, I'm going to move over here to the other side. Okay, there's my mark again. See, it's kind of simple, but it helps you. I don't want to keep loading up this or any applicator with tons and tons of coating. So knowing where to put the coating just kind of helps you to do that. Helps you to be a little bit stingy with the product. Okay, and I'm going to overlap this a little bit to the side that I already treated. And if it helps you out, like this is a roll around card I like to use as I'm detailing cars. But I also am placing my applicator pads on a clean towel. I cleaned this cart before this live broadcast went live, but I'm real picky about stuff like this. I want everything completely clean. There, and that is probably the hardest part, is just reaching out there. And here's a little tip. When I teach my big classes here, I always send an email out. It's called Important Information. It gives you the start time, the location, there's donuts here, what to wear. Like, I don't want people wearing flip-flops or ladies wearing high heels, so, wear work clothes. But I always recommend to people to wear a soft cotton t-shirt that covers your belt loops. So in case you got to lean on a car, can you pan over to this Hudson? This is a good example. To start to work on this Hudson, and this is here for our June 8th class, I'm going to teach the class, besides starting at the roof and working your way down, when it comes to working on the hood, you're going to want to start in the middle and work your way out, which means at some point you got to lean on the car a little bit. So just having a clean, soft t-shirt to cover up the front of your car. You could use a apron, okay? But a lot of times aprons aren't always the softest thing out there. Okay, then just to continue, let me hit this side. One, two, three little drops there. Tactically, as I'm rubbing this, I can kind of feel the texture of the paint. But once I went over it once, now it starts to become very slippery feeling. Just like most coatings, when you apply them, at least all the Dr. Beasleys, you can tactically feel that surface go slippery. Okay, so there's applied. Come back with my towel. Take and level the coating. Flip to a dry side. And then wipe off any excess. Okay, and then this last little spot right up here. And then the rest of this car, like I mentioned before, we're going to save this for the video. The video is going to show the correct washing technique for how to wash a matte finish. The technique that I show for that is a little different than what most people use. So if you get a chance when this goes live on the Dr. Beasley YouTube channel, go up and wash it. I'll be sharing that technique. Okay. Anyway, it's just that easy, working on matte, as long as you're using the right chemicals. And again, make sure everything that touches that paint is clean. Over there by my slop sink, there's a shelf over there. And in that shelf, there are 2 pairs of tweezers. And that's because the washer and dryer's over there. And we put them on the table here and fold them before they go in the cabinets. And not only do we look at each towel for contaminants, but we feel them. And a lot of times your hand will detect something your eyes didn't see. And if you can't pull it out with your finger, the tweezers will help you to do that. Okay, well, Craig, that's all I really got. This may be a short video, but showing the correct technique using distilled water. There is no flash time. You can rub in circular motions, back and forth crosshatch, straight line pattern, whichever would be your personal preference. Just as long as everything is clean and non-abrasive, you're not going to put any scratches in. Not yet, no. Victor, do we got anybody with any questions on matte paint care?
Yeah, let's take a look at the chat here. Everybody, this is Victor, Communications Manager for Dr. Beasley's. I'll be filling in for Yancey as the voice from the Nether today. Yeah. Looking at the chat here, well, we've got Humberto, Mr. First from Puerto Rico here as always. Hello, Yancey and Mike. Sorry, okay. Humberto, no Yancey today. Got Denard Harris, cannot wait. I guess he was very excited to see this matte demonstration here. Got a comment from Matt Z. I knew they'd have a live about me eventually. Very funny. Let's see, got our good friend Kyle Naveau, authorized detailer here. He's apparently done 7 matte pro coatings, so he's got quite a bit of experience with matte.
Did I hit all the right key points there?
I hope so.
Hope so.
Um, let's see. We got Brad Bilodeau. He says mid-range. LOL. I think in response to you referring to the GV70 as the mid-range SUV in the Genesis line. um, let's see. Flight Crew Custom. Bought this exact car a little over a year ago and put matte paint protection film on it. Looking forward to the presentation. Thanks for putting this together. Mike, this makes me think, do you have any thoughts on, ceramic coating versus PPF when it comes to matte?
The key thing with, you mean as far as putting a PPF on a matte finish?
Well, I guess, here's the two questions. What do you think is going to protect the paint best? And then do you recommend putting a ceramic coating on top of PPF?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Look, where I live here in Florida, we got the I-95 out there. And due to the influx of so many people, it's always busy. And when you have anything driving in front of you, it's always kicking up debris. Things are dropping off trucks. So yeah, PPF is going to do a better job of perfecting from rock chip damage than just a coating by itself. And of course, you can buy matte PPF. So it kind of blends together. You're always going to see a line. If it only goes up like a third of the hood, you'll see that line where that's at. But it'll provide much better protection. Same thing for like the side mirrors and things like this, like bugs. In fact, there's a couple of bugs right here. Here's a bug that's completely splattered himself across on the paint. Here's one too. But again, I'm leaving those there for the video we're going to shoot on Saturday to show how to take those off using the matte decon or the matte paint cleanser. But yeah, if you have a matte PPF on the car, then it's a good idea to use. We have a matte coating just for that. And I think the critical thing about that is the same thing here. You don't want to be adding any gloss to it. You want to keep that factory or that diffused appearance to it. And the application will be the same. Just, clean it well, apply, use anything that's non-abrasive.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as I love our matte paint coating, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that, matte PPF wouldn't be a better option. I mean, just in terms of, being able to resist rock chips and all that stuff, that's just something a ceramic coating just can't do. So if people are looking for the absolute best, my recommendation or Dr. Beasley's recommendation, get the matte PPF and then put a matte film coating on top of that to protect.
Yep. And I just recently had a guy call me, I bought a brand new Corvette. It's glossy paint. But he asked me about putting a PPF film on there. And I says, well, here's my question. Is this going to be your Sunday, Saturday, Sunday garage queen? Or are you going to drive this every day? He says, oh, no, wife's driving it every day. I'm down 95. And I says, go get the PPF on it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to be filling in rock chips. There's no perfect answer, but PPF is good for daily drivers.
Absolutely. Let's see. Oh, and first from Puerto Rico coming back again, reminding us never to polish a matte finish because you will level it and make it shiny. And that's a good point. Yeah, because it's the polishing action. That's sanding down the texture, essentially leveling it.
Yep.
Whereas the wax fills it in and makes the surface flat. The polishing sands it down, makes it flat. But either way, you're getting that same flatness, that same glossiness. Yeah.
Yeah. And before we went live, Victor, we were talking to my friend Lenny. When matte paints really started to become popular, I think going all the way back to 2010, he worked really hard at trying to come up with some kind of paint correction system for matte. And finally, he gave up. Says it really can't be done. And that's why it's so key, like the tips I shared earlier, don't ever go up here and rub hard. If you've got a bird dropping right in the middle of the hood here, you'd be better off to take a clean towel, dampen it, lay it on there, and just get a cup of coffee and just let the water to sit there and soak in. Water is a universal solvent, and like I like to use the analogy, if you go sit in a hot tub for about 30 minutes, what happens to your skin? Softens up. Same thing's going to happen here. Then you could come by, and if that didn't wipe off, then you could use the matte paint cleanser on a dampened towel. Give it a little bit more cleaning power. But the last thing you want to do is come down here and start rubbing, because you will alter how that paint looks, and you won't be able to recover from it.
Absolutely. Let's see, Kyle back here. I have a 5-gallon bucket of matte body wash. That's a smart thing to have if you're a professional that's doing a lot of matte. Because a lot of times with matte customers, what happens is that they'll kind of be locked in as repeat business because they're going to get the ceramic coating and then they're going to come back to you for the maintenance washes. So if that's the kind of setup that you're going with at your detail shop, you want to make sure that you've got a lot of product that you can use for the maintenance washes, because that's going to, add up over time, definitely.
And one of the things about the matte body wash is you can use it in a 5-gallon, in a 2-bucket method. You could use it in a pressure washer or a foam gun, foam cannon. It's fairly versatile. So
Yeah, and that's what those, the bigger sizes are great for, is for when you do
yeah.
have that, kind of foam cannon set up. So if you're a professional, definitely recommend, getting the 5-gallon size if you can. All right, let's see here. Director of Success, Chris Ricana, has joined the chat. Good to see you, Chris. All righty. Let's see. Got Chameleon calling you out, Mike, for not using gloves while applying the coating. What's going on?
Yeah, I have a cabinet full of gloves back here, and you got to understand, when I grew up in the detailing world, I don't think nitrile gloves have been invented yet. We had rubber gloves, but not the nitrile gloves. So early on in my career, it just never became a habit to put nitrile gloves on because they weren't around. And it's like that today. So good catch. I promise the next time I'm showing using any chemicals, I'll make sure I've got the nitrile gloves. One thing about the Dr. Beasleys, though, they are at least as safe as you can make whatever the type of chemical it is. Jim's a great chemist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just to add on that, when I meet people, they say, oh, I love this product, whatever it is. You know what you're really saying? I love that chemist, okay? The chemist is the one that makes the product. So I think that's funny when people say, oh, I love that product. Well, you mean you love the chemist then?
Yeah, that's a good point. All righty.
Everything comes down to the chemist. Gosh, it's so important to have the right chemistry, even for glossy paint.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. We got Flight Crew Custom again. He's wondering what the ideal temperature to apply and the wait time before exposure to rain, elements, etc. after application. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I believe that's pretty much the same as any ceramic coating in our line.
Yeah. So the setup time, the cure time in a perfect world is 3 days. If you can leave the car completely unmolested, not having anything touch it, no rain, no nothing, and as I like to say, let the coating do its little voodoo magic on the surface. So everything you'll get the maximum performance. But, if we don't always live in that perfect world, a lot of times your customers, for example, this person, they want to come pick up the car. 24 hours is best undisturbed. So not getting wet, not being touched, not being put back into service.
All right. Brad Bilodeau coming back with a question. How often would you reapply? Do you mind if I field this one, Mike?
Go right ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, that's really going to depend on how you maintain the paint. Now, if it's a garage queen, or you're really doing a good job at, washing it regularly, keeping up with, spot cleaning when you see bird droppings and things like that, you could easily see 3 years out of this coating, and that's how long we warranty it, when an authorized installer, an authorized detailer with Dr. Beasley's has installed it. If your regimen isn't quite as good as that, it's a daily driver that isn't getting washed super often, maybe you're not keeping up with the maintenance in terms of spot cleaning, then you'll be looking at more 6 months to a year. So it really comes down to how you're taking care of the vehicle, but it can be anywhere from 6 months to 3 years.
And just to kind of parlay off that, Victor, when I'm driving around here in Florida, a lot of times you see a business sign or a post, something up in the yards and everything around here. And a lot of times they look rusty. Okay, that's where a sprinkler is going off and hitting them. And the point being is there's iron particles, dissolved iron particles in city water and in well water. And over time, even just washing your car, you keep introducing that to the surface. At some point, you're going to want to use a product like the Dr. Beasley's Matte Decon, because it's the only way to really break that up and remove it. And if you're working on a white car, that'll restore a brightness to the white. But keep in mind, if that same kind of clouding effect from the iron contamination or any kind of contamination is clouding white paint, it would be clouding red paint or blue paint. So if you buy one of these things used, you don't think it's been completely, taken care of as much good as you would do, then that might be something you want to take a look at, as the Dr. Beasley's Matte Decon as a part of the wash process.
Absolutely. Let's see.
And then I was going somewhere with that because someone's asking how long does the coating last? Well, how long anything lasts depends on how the surface is prepared to accept it. So if you've got contaminated paint and you put a coating on there, it's not going to really be able to make the bond that it could make if that paint was virgin clean. So using the matte decon, the cleanser, washing often, it's going to help the coating to bond better, which means it's going to be able to last longer, which means it can protect longer. So, just knowing a little bit about the different chemicals that are available to help you to maintain the finish on a new car or a used matte car.
Let's see, we got Robert here. Thank you. I have the same vehicle, burgundy matte finish. That burgundy color is pretty nice. I've seen those on the Genesises, yeah. All right. Denard Harris wants to know, how do we take care of the glossy black sections between the windows on matte cars?
For that, that would be something like you probably want to just get a conventional coating. I don't think our matte coatings would cause any harm. They're more formulated for textured surfaces. Maybe Chris could chime in on that. That's a
I can chime in too.
Plastic B pillars right here, which are piano plastic.
Yeah, you could definitely use the matte paint coating on that. With the matte paint coating and basically all of our matte products, they'll work on gloss paint as well, because you have to remember what's making them good for matte is the fact that they don't change the appearance. So it's not like they're adding additional, matte diffusion to the matte surface. It's just maintaining the matte as it is. So that'll apply the same for glossy. It'll just maintain gloss in the state that it currently exists. So you can use the matte paint coating on those, piano black pillars. Just keep in mind, if they're not a paint surface, it may not bond quite as well, may not last as long as it would on paint.
Yeah, that piano plastic, what's interesting is if you look at all the cars, all the trucks on the road, all the SUVs, everybody uses that on their cars. It's on the trim around headlights, around grills, and it does look good when it's in good shape, but the material itself is very soft. It scratches very easy, and then you got to polish it out. And I wish they would just either use the same color paint on there or use stainless steel or aluminum or chrome. I'm not a big fan of piano plastic. I don't know any detail that is.
All right. RD is asking, can I do this technique with my PPF and ceramic wrapped over matte paint on my white 2022 Genesis GV80 Signature Series? So I think he's saying that he's got PPF on the paint, but then there's ceramic on top of that. So in that case, I think really you just need to maintain the ceramic coating at this point. If you've already got, those two kinds of protection on there, then really what you want to just do is maintain that top layer of protection if it's still, durable and protecting the PPF underneath.
And that would start with a pH balanced car wash soap that's chemically formulated for maintaining ceramic coatings, whether they're matte or glossy. I just know from all the years I went into AutoZone and look at the consumer friendly kind of car washes, and a lot of times they say contains, carnauba wax. Nowadays they contain ceramic, they contain graphene, they contain all these other ingredients that you really don't want on your ceramic coating or on your matte finish. So what you really want is a virgin soap. All it's going to do is clean and restore a clean surface and let the coating do the protection and the beauty part.
All right. Next up, we have Wiz714 Eli. He's purchased the majority of the matte product line. Wants to know when you would use matte final finish. What's the kind of use case for matte final finish?
Matte final finish is basically, think of a spray detailer for glossy paint. So for removing light dust, fingerprints, and smudges. If the car isn't too dirty, it's just light dust, garage clean, you could use it kind of like a waterless wash, but you don't want too much dirt on there where you need actually water flowing, so you have more lubrication. But basically, think of it as a spray detailer maintenance type product.
Yeah, and to add on to that, if you do, a lot of people will find themselves in situations where a regular wet wash isn't viable, and they want to do a waterless wash. Matte final finish might not be the best product for that, just because it is a quick detailer. You can use it as a pinch as a waterless wash, but we'll recommend using our matte waterless wash product if you're going to be doing a full-on waterless wash, to remove contamination. Yeah.
So here's the matte final finish, and just as a demonstration, I misted a few spritzes on there, and you just come out with your clean towel and just use it like a spray detailer. Oh, has a nice scent to it too. Boom.
Ooh, we got a follow-up question from the same person, and I think you'll have the answer for this, Mike. I live in Orange County, Southern California. I deal with dust. It sucks that the next day I already have a layer of dust on my car as it sits outside. Do you recommend using a car duster?
I've never been a big fan of car dusters. The
Yeah.
problem with that kind of scenario, and I lived in Irvine, California for 2 years. It's beautiful weather, 80 degrees, 70 degrees year round. Uh, but the problem with that is overnight, if there's any kind of dew that forms, the dew turns that light dust into a film. And now it's not going to just wipe off. So then sometimes people will tend to start scrubbing with the duster. So you'll have to use your own judgment on there. And also, just one of the things I've noticed about the dusters that we're all familiar with is people will say they work better after they become dirty and broke in, but I would say they start to scratch when they become dirty and broke in. So the best time to use them is when they're clean and in good shape. They start to get tatty looking, might be a good idea to replace it. I wouldn't be a big fan of that. I've never been a big fan of those things. What they do, I tried one time in a black car. So I started wiping light dust off a freshly waxed car a couple of days later. And I wiped this way. And then when I lifted it up, it left a pile of dust there. When I wiped this way and lifted it up, it left a pile of dust there. So while it does take a lot of the dust off, it leaves little piles everywhere. Not a big fan personally, but I know a lot of people really like those tools.
Awesome. All right. This was a question that we got from Instagram that I thought was a good question. I think I'll be able to answer this one best. So the person's wondering in the chemistry, what's the difference between a matte coating and a standard ceramic coating? And I guess the backstory on this is so Jim Lefebvre, who started Dr. Beasley's, when he was first formulating a protection product for matte, what he found was with the ceramic coatings that were on the market at the time, and this was probably the early 2010s, like around 2011. The ceramic coatings were essentially filling in the matte texture, similar to what a wax would do. The nanostructure, instead of adhering to those hills and valleys, the texture in the matte paint, it was essentially filling it in and creating that kind of more semi-gloss effect than a matte effect. So the big breakthrough with the matte paint coating was the fact that it was able to adhere to the hills and valleys, maintain that texture, keep the texture while also protecting, and that what was ultimately able to kind of lock in that matte finish. So that's sort of the chemical difference. All right.
One thing I never try to do is play the part of a chemist.
Leave that to Jim.
Yeah. Be a detailer.
All right. We got one from Anthony. Hi guys, Tony from Long Island. How do you remove sprinkler spots from matte finishes?
Yeah, good question. So, and I get asked about that all the time, just from clients and strangers. And the first thing I do when someone asks me about water spots on any kind of paint is I refocus their attention and make them think about what is in the water. What's in there that it's so corrosive it's etching either the coating or the paint, or leaving what I call an imprint ring, and worst case scenario, a crater etching. Nothing we can do to fix it. It's just something that makes you think, what's in the water? You're taking a shower, you're drinking it, and it's hurting paint. But when it comes to water spots, the only thing you can really try is either our matte cleanser or our matte decon. And so you'd want to wash the car first with the matte body wash, and then you want to use both the cleanser and the decon. If you're going to use one or the other, you want to use them on a wet car. Okay, so matte finishes are very sensitive to chemicals. So you want to use the right chemicals, but you want to use it with a wet car. And this is where you could take and either, like I showed earlier in this video, dampen a clean folded microfiber towel with water, wring it all out so it's just damp, has some weight to it, and then take the product. So here's the matte cleanser, and mist it actually onto the one side of the towel. And I actually don't want to do that. And then take and rewash the car softly. You can't rub. And that's kind of the downside of water spots. If the water's so corrosive that it leaves an etching or an imprint ring, if this doesn't work, it's not a lot of other options you have out there. You cannot get aggressive with matte. You can't rub on it. So
Yeah, I will say, we have a water spot remover product that's, specifically designed to break down those kind of, really hard mineral deposits that form from water spots. It is safe for matte paint, so if the, final finish, the cleanser, decon, that stuff isn't working, that would probably be the last thing I'd recommend there.
yeah, and just to parlay off that is, like Victor just said, that's for mineral deposits. So a lot of times water has dissolved minerals. The water dries up, it leaves this crusty deposit. That's one type of water spot. It's called a type 1 water spot. A type 2 is when there's something so corrosive in the water, it actually alters the paint. So years ago, I actually wrote an article called Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 water spots. And that was because I'm talking to people all the time about water spots, and I had to know what type of water spot. Is it the minerals on the surface? Is it an imprint ring? Is it a crater etching? Or in the case of single stage paint, there's type 4. And a lot of times when you get water into single stage paint, especially older single stage paint, it'll turn it white. You'll see white spots on red paint. And it's just a phenomena that takes place on older cars. But yeah, you got to always remember there's different types of water spots. So if you're ever looking for help on it, make sure you can identify is it type 1, type 2, type 3, or a type 4.
Awesome. Next, we've got Michael Henry. What's the shelf life of Dr. Beasley's products? Use your products on my matte Vespa and don't use too much. I can answer this one really quick. So basically, for the most part with our products, you're going to be getting a 5-year shelf life unopened and then 2 years after opening. So that's generally the case for most of our products. I think there are a few exceptions here and there, but with matte stuff specifically, 2 years opened, 5 years unopened.
And because I've been asked that question a lot, one of the things you can do is just take an ink pen or a Sharpie marker and mark the date that you open it. That way you're going to remember,
Exactly, yeah.
So a lot of the products I have here have dates on them with a Sharpie marker. So I know when they came in. And we always practice, FIFO, first in, first out. So for example, I got a class coming up on June 8th, and I have a good supply of the different NSP primers, including the 32-ounce bags. And when I get a new shipment in, I place the newest bags in the back and move the older ones, but I mark them all just so I know the date on them. So something you can do for anything you're using, date it when you open it.
All right. Well, we got another question here from Brad that I think I can answer. Do you have to reapply the ceramic coating if you use the matte cleanser? So yeah, I can say that is true in some cases. So as a best, precaution, we always recommend, since you'll be using matte plate cleanser as a spot cleaner primarily, once you have, addressed whatever stain or bonded contaminant with the matte paint cleanser, you will want to reapply the coating in that area. It might not have removed the coating necessarily, but it can, definitely reduce the protection level on the area that it was used. So definitely reapply after using that product.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, again, I've been asked this type of question all my life. And when people ask me, will claying affect car wax? Will claying affect a ceramic coating? I always like to put things what I call extremes. So let's just use glossy paint for an example. If you've got a car, you've had a ceramic coated, something happened in the wind, there's overspray paint, you come down and clay that ceramic coated paint. People ask, well, is the clay taking off the coating? So here's how I put that to extremes. Will claying a ceramic coated glossy paint finish add more ceramic? And the answer is obviously no. So what's the opposite of the word add? Subtract. It's doing one or the other. So think about those things. But yeah, if you use that chemical, then it doesn't take long. You just saw how fast I did the hood here.
All right. Well, I think that's about all the questions we've got. We're at about 45 minutes right now. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else you wanted to contribute, Mike?
Since we have this live going out there, coming up, we just recently had a 3-day class here. I've been sharing pictures on my Instagram and my Facebook page, and what you see is the students doing nothing but working and training on cars and boats. There's really no sitting, but I have a 1-day class coming up on Saturday, June 8th. And Craig, you want to pan, and I'll just walk back here. Let's start with the Hudson. So this is a 1952 Hudson Hollywood Hornet. It's actually the 2-door hard top. There's no post here. It has a custom base coat, clear coat paint job with a chameleon flame job. And if you could be here in person, you would be astonished at just how swirled out this paint is. So this is going to be one of the training cars for that Saturday class. And as you can see, it's a big car. So one of the things I like to do when I have my classes is I don't ever want to see somebody standing around with their hands in their pocket. I have big cars, plenty of room to play with all the tools. And this is just a selection of the types and the brands of tools we have here. Cordless rotaries from Harbor Freight, from Milwaukee, from Flex. We got the Flex Pixie. We got Porter Cable. We got the Harbor Freight version of the Porter Cable. We got Griot's Garage. We've got another Harbor Freight long stroke. We got the Bigfoot 1521. We got the Udos. Down here's Flex. Down here's Harbor Freight, and here's another rotary. And I even got more tools back there. So one of the things I like about the classes that we teach here is when you come down here, you get a chance to try out a lot of different tools. Make up your own mind if that's something you want to invest money in. And if you have your own polisher, maybe you bought something that's still in the box, we call this BYOB, bring your own buffer. You're welcome to bring it to my class. I'll show you how to get the maximum performance out of it. But this is one of the cars. And I teach 3 different topics. So this is a 36 Ford. Let me talk about the topics real quick. In the professional world, you know, all detailers should have different packages. Okay, so not everybody's going to come to you and want you to do everything you can do to make this thing perfect. Maybe it's their grocery getter, their daily driver. They just want a one-step done. So you need to have 3 packages: multiple step, 1 step with a ceramic coating, and 1 step with an AIO, and all in one. Thus 3 cars. You're going to learn 3 different approaches to detailing a car so you can offer your customers these 3 approaches. And if you're just an enthusiast, I have a lot of people that love doing their own detailing, they're do-it-yourselfers. You're going to have the same thing. Most people own more than 1 car. So maybe you've got that special car in the garage, a Porsche or a Corvette. You would do a multiple step, but you got something that's the wife's car. You're not going to do, you want to do that 1 step, you know? So, you know, you got to think about that. That's why this class is all hands-on. We're going to cover 3 different ways or approaches to detailing really hacked up paint. But that's to help you take care of your own cars, or if you're a professional, learn how to make money. Because one of the biggest problems detailers have when they get into detailing is they do multiple step to every car they detail and end up working for $1 an hour. You know, you need to present to your customers the different packages you have and let them pick the package that meets their needs and their budget. Don't work for free forever for other people. Earn what you're worth. This is a 1936 Ford pickup street rod. Again, base coat, clear coat paint job. And when I look at it, I threw some videos on my Instagram page. It is so hacked up. But the worst car is over here. This is a 1978 Camaro Z28. And it literally looks like it was used as a hockey puck. It is so beat up. It's got white marks everywhere where a tarp was placed on here and the wind rubbed it back and forth and abraded it. We're gonna be doing the multiple step package on this car, and that means my classes start at 7:30. By 8 o'clock in the morning, my students will be using a rotary polisher with a wool cutting pad to undo years and years of neglect on that car. But those are the 3 cars for the upcoming June 8th class. You know, and I always bring in the coolest cars in the industry for people to train on. Then the next class is September 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And I've confirmed a 1949 Chevy Fleetline with horrible orange peel as one of the standing cars. I've already confirmed a Sea Hunt boat for that class, a beautiful center console with really white deep oxidation on a beautiful blue gel coat finish. So again, I'm bringing in cool cars, really bad boats, 100% hands-on, no standing around, no PowerPoint, just training. I find the people that are interested in detailing cars, whether you're an enthusiast or professional, learn better by doing versus sitting in a chair looking at the wall. So that's what's coming up. And then, of course, we're doing these, Victor, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the 3rd Wednesday, the live broadcast each month.
Correct.
So,
that's right.
So this will be the first one that's a monthly. Then, of course, as we move into June, it'll be the 3rd Wednesday in June. So make sure to tune in and, of course, share with your friends. And please like this live broadcast, share with your friends, and hit the subscribe button so you know when the next one's coming up.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we'll say goodbye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We always love having you watch whatever we're doing here at the OR in sunny Stuart, Florida.
Beautiful. Take care, everybody.